I think especially now when we're at the 15-year mark, we want to be more global. That is like the plan moving forward.
Some say streetwear is no longer street. It's just another form of mainstream fashion now. Do you agree, or is there still an underground culture that's keeping it alive?
Creatives like, myself and many others there, we've always somewhat stayed true to what we're about, what we love, what we're doing, and that's still very much alive.
And there's also a market for that.
That is, definitely. Throughout the 15 years where even me and Alan, we ask ourselves like, why are we still doing this? Are we still relevant?
Yeah.
Asking those type of questions, right?
Hype culture drives a demand, but it also creates a cycle of exclusivity and resale inflation. Do you think brands have a responsibility to make their products more accessible, or is scarcity part of the game with brands that want to earn more from the resale value and inflation? We've got another guest today who is a part of a household brand name by this point, Pestle and Mortar Clothing. I'm going to say that again. Pestle and Mortar Clothing founder, Hugh Koh.
Thank you, Terry. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, Pestle Mortar Clothing.
I love
PMC.
it. Do people sometimes mispronounce the name of the brand?
Oh, all the time, man. I think it's not it's something that you know and you see every day, right? Like it's the tool that they have in every household. But I think when you look at it, you kind of wonder, like, how do you pronounce it?
Right.
Pestle or, mortar.
And you're not going to go with baju batu tumbuk, right?
Yeah, lah. I think we want the English word. Yeah, so that's why we just say PMC.
PMC, got it.
Yeah.
When we find out or learn about people who are in this world, in the world of apparel, in the world of fashion, in the world of clothing, you always wonder how does it start? Where does it begin, right? What kind of child were you growing up?
Yeah, I think, obviously having been in fashion for a while now, I do come from a creative background. I think from a very young age, right, like cultivated, I think also on the entrepreneurship sort of like journey.
Yeah.
Dad, similarly, to myself, had his own architecture firm.
Right.
And he was always doing it very subtly, but I kind of realized maybe like, much later on in my life, like, hey, everything was intentional.
Yep.
He'll bring me to the office. Even my brother had his own business.
Yeah.
So I think it was very natural when we kind of said like, hey, we wanted to kind of start this business. He was very supportive and the family was. So I think that definitely helped. And
Right.
in terms of fashion, that mostly came from more of just a passion thing. But I was always like a creative person at heart. Hated anything, math,
Right.
science.
But
I was
when you
more of
first
like the art
started,
type lah.
You were an architect?
I was, yeah. So I studied I wasn't an architect, but I
you
studied
studied.
architecture. I never finished. So
Because Pestle and Mortar did well?
well, yeah, I guess you could say that, and I think definitely enjoyed that a lot more. But I was the early days I was sort of like juggling both sides of it and kind of testing it out.
Right.
And kind of realized that, hey, I really want to kind of pursue this 100%.
Was there a particular moment, or experience in your childhood or early life that kind of shaped your worldview or a kind of approach to life?
To lie? Well, that's a deep question, man.
It really is, right?
I think, when it comes to fashion itself, like why fashion? I think a lot of people, they've sort of asked me like, why start a fashion label? And I think it really stems from passion. I think as young kids, sort of growing up in high school, always been into a lot of these different like subculture. So subculture like skateboarding, art, music, rock. So, and a lot of our heroes as well, the things that they were wearing, and we were just consumers,
Right.
We used to buy a lot of stuff from America.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, why don't we kind of start our own thing? I mean, we can resonate with these things, but, to a certain extent, right? So why don't we create something that is truly about us and what we want to wear.
Right. But did you know that you were going to work with the people that you ended up working with?
Yeah, so I've got partners in the business, one of it being, Arnold, who Astro.
That's right. You used to work for Hits.
Yes, that's
breakfast
correct.
show now in Japan.
That is correct, yeah.
That's right.
So
Eating a lot of sushi and doing nothing else.
That's right, yeah. I should actually kind of bring him and maybe we should do some expansion to Japan.
Heard that,
About that.
Yeah.
And and his younger brother. So three of us, we kind of started it. And I think, even the earlier days, really sort of like going back many years, I still remember when I was like 16 and we were in like Form 3, we were already talking about starting this thing.
Oh,
And it was with
in
some
Form
other
3?
friends. Yeah, when we were 16.
Wow.
But I mean, back then, what did we know, right? We didn't have any money. I think back then we even built a website. It was on HTML. But nothing quite materialized. So sort of like fast forward 5, 6, 8 years. And then we kind of sat down in Mamak and said, want to do this? And
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's like
Who
a
started
couple
that
of same
conversation?
people. Arnold and his brother was already talking about starting something, and I just came and asked them, and they were like, "We're thinking the same thing, so let's do it."
Was there like a defining moment where you realized this is what you wanted to do? This was the path you wanted to take, or was it all a collection?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I think we never intended it to. We never like thought it through. I think at that age we were like, we just wanted to just start and just have fun.
Yeah.
We never thought that 15 years later we'll still be doing it, or Pestle Mortar would be where it is today. Having done all these collaborations, having traveled, having met all these people. Definitely not. I think back then was really try and see and see what happens.
And look at what has happened.
Yeah. It's a
15
pretty
years
crazy journey.
Right.
It is, yeah.
Do you feel something now when you think about the path that you've been on?
Definitely. Obviously, the journey has had like lots of ups and downs, but definitely more ups, man. And I think, really looking back, I wouldn't give it or trade it for anything else. Like the amount of doors it's opened, the amount of opportunities that is presented, experiences.
Right.
I mean, from a monetary standpoint, obviously, I think there's always like room for that. But I think the fulfillment, right? The fulfillment really in terms of, I really enjoy what I do. And, the team as well, that's what we really sort of strive for.
And PMC started at a time when Malaysian streetwear wasn't quite as established, right? What was it
That is correct, yeah.
like trying to build a brand in that space back then?
Yeah. I think, that was actually timing was, we were actually very lucky because I think the earlier years before that, I think it was still very sort of like look to the West. For a lot of the brands. Obviously, Malaysia itself didn't have much choice. But when we started back in 2010, there were a couple of other friends who had brands. So that was cool to see, but nothing like what it is today. And there was a wave of, hey, like I want to be able to support Malaysia. I want to support, something that I can resonate with, compared to another brand. So I think that was sort of like that time was kind of perfect for us. Like there was a wave. Where people were supporting Malaysian products.
Yeah.
And that was just by coincidence. We didn't plan it or whatnot
Right.
or anything along those lines. And when we started that, just people supported.
Right.
Yeah.
But what definitely wasn't a coincidence though would be the beginning where you needed to get attention as well, right? So what were some of the scrappiest, most unconventional things that you did to get PMC off the ground?
I think, well, this part I got to give Arnold credit, right? Because, back then, Arnold was in, also within, not radio, but video
The
production.
entertainment scene.
Yeah, entertainment scene. So he, at that point of time, he was doing ATV Quickie.
Yeah.
So a lot of access to, local celebrities. And I think Malaysia, in terms of the network, or Kuala Lumpur itself, the network is small.
Yep.
So, once you're kind of in that scene, people just tend to kind of support you.
Right.
The early days, like we even had people like Henry Golding, man. I mean, look where he is like now, right?
Right.
Back then, he was like selling T-shirts out of like our car boot,
Right.
with us. Like good memories,
Yeah.
good memories that way. And
Bring him back.
now I call him and say, "Who's that?"
Here's a little behind the scenes thing. At one point, Arnold and Henry Golding were
Housemates.
actually housemates.
That's correct.
They were housemates, yeah.
That
I
was
don't know if I'm supposed to share that, but I am sharing it.
It's fine. It's fine. I think,
He
yeah.
was helping Henry Golding pay for the bills.
Yes, that is correct.
Now,
Yeah.
you mentioned about how Arnold was a big part of it, but I think the designs initially was such a big part as well. Like even until now, when I mentioned the Pestle and Mortar Clothing brand,
Yep.
one of the things people will say is, yeah, the Nasi Lemak shirt brand.
Yeah, it's always been about like culture and heritage. I think that's one of the main questions that we asked ourselves before we started was like, what is going to set us from the million of brands out there, right? And I think at the end of the day, it's really the experiences. It's really about who we are. And we want to be able to kind of showcase that. So storytellers, think of like, you want to be able to tell stories, and our canvas of choice is clothing. So, And that's what we wanted to create, like things like you said, the nasi lemak. We spoke about different things like the flats in Kuala Lumpur. We spoke about the roti man, and all these are very iconic things, right? Where if you are overseas and you look at that, you go like, hey, Malaysian or like, hey, I've eaten that, oh my goodness, like that's mee goreng, So that's what we wanted to create. We wanted to create like spark conversation through our clothes.
Right.
And that was really sort of like the driving force behind the brand, and even till today, that's the way that we still kind of showcase it. But obviously trends have changed, look and feel have changed, but ideally the core and the DNA is always going to be that.
Right.
So
Yeah, and you've also done collaborations. Like in 2018, you did a collaboration with Royal Selangor, blended heritage pewter craftsmanship with contemporary streetwear, right? What insights did you gain from merging traditional artistry with modern fashion?
yeah.
Yeah, how do you balance that authentic cultural representation with global appeal in your collections? Like, how do you?
So I think first up, just to maybe a little bit of an introduction about that collaboration, like Royal Selangor. I mean, this was like you mentioned, Terry. I think easily how many years ago was it?
Yeah,
You said 2018, right?
yeah.
So it was some time back, but it was one of our most iconic ones, and what kind of like started the wave for a lot of the other partnerships that we did. But for Royal Selangor, that is also a collaboration which is kind of like really close to my heart, because number one, like two Malaysian brands. Number two, both brands are from different eras completely.
Right.
Royal Selangor is over 100 years old, like fourth generation run. And Pestle Mortar at a point of time was less than 10 years, or maybe 5 years in or 6 years in. And coming together, right? And I think for Royal Selangor, the way that we knew it was like, oh, that brand that my dad buys like future gifts and gives it as corporate gifts, right? So I think for them as well, they wanted to see what that was like if it was reimagined by a younger sort of brand like PMC. And for us, I think a lot of it was also to respect and pay homage to the legacy that they've built, the artistry or even the artisanal sort of discipline that a lot of these craftsmen that work within Royal Selangor, how do we sort of tell that? So we were given access to like 100-year-old sort of archive library of designs.
Wow.
And we were like looking through the logos, and a lot of it is what we depict on the design. And we even had like pewter buttons. We even had like, some of the texture of like the pocket was also in like the hand finish of how they normally knock the pewter sort of like tin cups and whatnot. I think Royal Selangor as well, that's a more sort of like premium market, not cheap. So the shirts at that point of time, we were selling it with the pewter buttons like 600-700 ringgit.
Yeah.
We were like showcasing that at Pavilion when they had the store right at the entrance back in the day.
Right.
So it was great. Like
Collaborations like this are always very interesting to see how brands like merge or marry their different identities, right? Like when it comes to collaborations, what do you look at, and is there a process that you go through before even deciding that you would collaborate with someone?
I think number one is synergy. I think for us, we want to be able to tell great stories. So a lot of times that's what we try to look for. I think second of all, similar to like the business itself, we need to be passionate about it. Is it a brand that we are a fan of? Do we support? Do we buy their products? Things like that. So, and I think most importantly, I think especially now when we're at the 15-year mark, we want to be more global. That is like the plan moving forward. So even for that now, like a lot of these local collaborations that we've done, partnerships have somewhat lined the way and sort of like leading us to reach out and tell stories outside of Malaysia.
Right.
And that's what you're going to be seeing a lot of over the next decade.
Okay, over the next decade.
Well, I mean, that's plan right?
Wow.
One
That's a
longevity.
good plan. That's right. Now, also as co-founder of Atlas Collectif, a sustainable running brand targeting the Middle East and European markets. Interesting. What's inspired its creation, and how does it differentiate itself in the athletic apparel industry?
Yeah, so similar like PMC, Atlas Collectif is still a very new baby. We started it 2 years ago, just before COVID actually.
Whoa.
So my wife prior to that was actually based in Dubai, so I was going there quite a bit. And I think just through Pestle Mortar, just like reach out to different people, and that's where I actually met my now partner Ben.
Okay.
For Atlas Collectif, and he's a German national, but living in Dubai for many years already. And we just instantly connected and we became friends. And a big part of it was that we were going out for a lot of runs together. And that was something that I was very passionate about. I'm very sort of like sports savvy. I like sports and I run a lot. So, both of us, that's how we connected.
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, why don't we do something, right? And I think, again, for like Atlas Collective, a lot of it is inspired by our streetwear roots, and that is what kind of sets it apart.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned some of the keywords like sustainability. That's also another big brand pillar for the brand. But I think in this day and age, it is a given. Like everyone is like moving in that direction. Obviously, the education is needed, but in Europe, that is something it's expected from you.
Right.
So, that is something that Atlas
It's supposed to
Collective
be
is
baked
doing.
into the brand.
That is correct. And I think Atlas Collective as well, it really sort of like, it's a name itself, right? Like Atlas, the Atlas world map. That's what we want. When people say, where's the Atlas brand from? We always say, well, the founders, myself, I'm based in Malaysia, and Ben's based in Dubai. But we are a collective of people all over the world.
Right.
So say, for example, we've got like, we support run clubs in like Melbourne, Australia. We're doing events in like Chile. We're also supporting like a run club in Mexico.
Right.
So it's all over. If you go to like social media, that's what you see. You won't only be seeing content coming from one location, but that is what one kind of build it into, like sort of like global initiative.
Right.
All breathing the same thing.
There seems to be a similarity between how you personally actually involve yourself in business, because when it comes to PMC, you started it with two friends.
Yeah.
Right? And then with Atlas Collective, it again is the baby born of what was initially a friendship that you just hit it off with someone, right? With Ben.
Yeah.
So do you see, is that something that you value in the way you go into business?
I think definitely I'm a lot more sort of emotional person. I think that's just me, like, and that's what I know, right? So yeah,
Some people would say choosing to go into business with your friends is a bad idea, right? But you found a way to make it work and successful.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Definitely, there are a lot of times that we argue and we challenge each other. But I think that's important, right? We're never going to see eye to eye, and I think that is also what kind of keeps pushing each of us to always strive. I think end of the day, we all want the same thing for the brand. So as long as the intentions are there, that's fine.
Right.
We clash, we make out.
How do you do
forward.
it? Do you set ground rules? Do you set ground rules before anything even happens? Like if something happens, this is what we're going to deal with it?
I mean, obviously for like partners and stuff like that, we do have, we do have like a contract in place that, this sort of like state to at least, like you mentioned, sort of like guidelines. If things do get messy, I think that's always very important, regardless of how close you are. I think second of all is that we're all very transparent. We say it as is. We don't sugarcoat things. So if we're unhappy, we talk about it. But I think what's important is about being respectful and the way that we communicate, right?
Right.
So everyone's given a platform to communicate. You go 5 minutes, then I go 5 minutes. If you can't decide, we bring someone else on board to
But you must be doing something right, because the proof is in the pudding, it would seem, right? Like how well the brands are doing now. With sustainability becoming increasingly crucial, how are PMC and Atlas Collective integrating eco-friendly practices into their design, production, distribution processes?
Yeah, so for Atlas, definitely we've gotten a lot of practice, with that brand. So all our factories that we work with, obviously certifications, that's what we look for. From not only from material standpoint, be it like recycled polyester that we're using like eco-friendly sort of like organic cotton, we're using like bamboo fabrics. So that is like on the fabric front, but even from like a dyeing process front, from a factory sort of worker front as well, making sure that proper sort of like labor guidelines are in place.
Right.
So
no sweatshops.
no sweatshops.
Yeah.
I think for Atlas, because we do sell outside of Malaysia, we sell it for a higher price. It's easier. But I think for Pestle and Mortar, because it's still majority local market, I think Malaysians, there still needs to be a lot more education.
Right.
I think people are still very sort of like price sensitive. So I think that is going to take time. But I think with what we're doing with Atlas, we're trying to move a lot of like those practices that we're currently practicing there to also PMC.
Do you see progress happening?
Slowly, yeah.
Because, like you said, in the international market, it seems like it's much more appreciated,
Definitely. Yeah.
right? Because do you feel it may be because of the local spending power of the people that is a reflection of what they're willing to pay for?
I think definitely that's one part of it. Like, yeah, your disposable income, right? That definitely plays a big role.
Yeah.
So I think we still got a lot of work to be done. But but yeah, I mean that is the direction that we want to head towards. I don't think it's an overnight thing, but it will require some time.
Quick tip, if you're traveling but still want to catch this episode of Live Confessions, NordVPN makes it super easy. Just connect to a Malaysian server and you'll be able to stream your favorite local content just like you're back home. With NordVPN, you're not just unlocking streaming, you can check local websites, log into your bank account securely, and even compare flight prices. Sometimes, changing your virtual location can help you find cheaper tickets. It's a total game changer if you travel a lot. Now, you could use a free VPN, but you'll likely deal with slow speeds, data limits, and privacy concerns. With NordVPN, you get fast connections, unlimited bandwidth, and solid privacy. No tracking, no hassle. And here's something extra for you. Head to nordvpn.com/liveconfessions and use the promo code Live Confessions to get a 2-year plan with 4 bonus months and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Whether you're on the go, working remotely, or just want better online privacy, NordVPN's got your back. Just tap the link in the description and try it out. Bearing this in mind, how do you navigate that fine line between staying true to your passion and ensuring that your brands remain commercially sustainable? Because that all plays a role in the longevity, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the way that we look at it is very different compared to when it was a 3-man team. I mean, right now, the team's obviously a lot bigger. We have mouths to feed. There's a lot of responsibility on our shoulders. So definitely, I think that whole like business aspect of it, boiled down to the sustainability of the business financially. That's a big part. So that's all. Obviously, that's how I've transitioned as a person as well. Where when I first started off, obviously a lot more sort of like creative focus. But right now, my job is to take care of people and also like just the overall direction of the business and the health of the business. So that is what I'm kind of focusing on. And the creative stuff, there are a lot more creative people, compared to me now who are sort of like running that part of the brands.
Was that an easy transition for you to?
No, I think it took time. It takes time. Having been doing this now for 15 years, and to be completely honest, there have been times, throughout the 15 years where even me and Alan, we ask ourselves like, why are we still doing this? Are we still relevant? Asking those type of questions, right?
What's the answer?
The answer to it is that number one, like, do we still want to do it? I think the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
We want to be able to kind of do it, but I think we need to understand that things are moving, and we need to evolve, right? It's really evolve or die.
Right.
And I think for us as well, like my own style when we first started off, what we liked and what we like now is different. And I think it should reflect that as well. And a lot of times it's about resonating, having the brand resonate with like-minded people like ourselves.
It's interesting that you bring that up. Because some say streetwear is no longer street. It's just another form of mainstream fashion now. Do you agree, or is there still an underground culture that's keeping it alive? Because it was, like you mentioned earlier, even that it was mostly related to a subculture.
Sure.
Right?
A little bit more niche, sort of thing. I think definitely a lot more accessible these days. I think especially with like, social media and the internet, and online shopping. Back then when you wanted to buy something, you can't buy it online. You have to go to the shop, right?
Yeah.
So you have to like go to the States, whether it be a pair of shoes, whether it be, a particular t-shirt that you wanted or a brand.
Yeah.
So right now a lot more accessible. But with that being said, I think it's good. I think this is just the general progression. And in terms of streetwear itself, I think there was a point in the time where it was like extremely hype, and a lot of like these big sort of brands were, I guess you could kind of say, maybe taking advantage of it. They kind of see like, okay, there is money to be made here. I think for them at the moment, like they've been trying to milk that, and obviously the appeal has dropped.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are kind of moving away from that. But I think creatives like, myself and many others there, like the smaller sort of brands, we've always somewhat like, stayed true to what we're about, what we love, what we're doing.
Right.
And we want to, and that's still very much alive.
Right. And there's also a market for that.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right. You just talked about it. In fact, you just mentioned it. People taking advantage, right? Hype culture drives a demand, but it also creates a cycle of exclusivity and resale inflation. Do you think brands have a responsibility to make their products more accessible, or is scarcity part of the game with brands that want to earn more from the resale value and inflation?
I think for me, my personal opinion on that would be, I still believe in, not flooding the market lah. I think even for us as well, with making sure that within our lines that we create, we have items which are accessible all year long. But there are certain pieces that we really want to keep it exclusive. Like we want to be able to say like, hey, I've got this jacket, you don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's always the fun bit of it, right? When you go out there and you really want something, but you can't get it. And the day that you get it, that feeling is difficult to describe.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that is, is relating back to this industry that we've been in.
Yeah.
That's been a big sort of like driving force.
Right. So in this case, you can actually have it both ways. You can have both the items that are readily available, and then within that, you will have the collections that are more collectible.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Do you find that in PMC's case, there is a huge number of people who really appreciate the collections?
No, for sure. I mean, we've got our loyal supporters who, I'm internally sort of like grateful for, and they've been following the brand.
Yeah.
So, there are certain pieces out there whenever we release, people really want to sort of jump on that. But we also have like the other items, which is like, it's there, and, you're creating different type of items for different people in the market. So maybe if you're new to PMC, okay, these type of items a little more friendly. But, if you've been following the brand, if you are digging deeper into the history of the brand, what we're all about, then there are these other pieces. So all of that, it's also engineered and very intentional compared to like, oh, let's just put out a collection for the sake of it.
Right.
I think that especially that is how we've been doing it like right now, being very intentional with the kind of products. And that's also like sustainability. Making sure that we're not just putting out product for the sake of putting out product.
Right.
Because I mean, how many t-shirts can you own, right?
That's true.
How many hoodies or how many pieces? Yeah.
That's a good point. Has it ever surprised you by how much your fans of the brand appreciate the brand?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a sort of like a big driving force of why we're still doing it. They'll come to our parties, they'll come to our events and say like, hey, love what you guys are doing. Like, how did you guys do it? They want to learn. And I think for me, we've been very lucky throughout the 15 years. A lot of people have given us opportunities and that platform to kind of showcase the work that we do and what we love. So I think similarly, that's something where I kind of, for myself, I want to be able to kind of give back.
Yeah.
So when people kind of, come to me and say like, I'm always happy to share, always happy to point them in the right direction.
Right.
And yeah.
And given what you're just saying now, in fact, like, sharing with people and pointing them in the right direction, drawing from your entrepreneurial journey, what key advice would you offer to individuals looking to establish their own fashion brands, especially in the current local and global landscape? Oh, the current local and global landscape. America.
I think especially for people thinking about doing it, I think, no regrets, right? Like if you want to do it, just go ahead and do it. I think a lot of times people try to maybe overthink or, try to plan. Like you can never get everything 100%. I think obviously you do need to plan. But once you kind of have that, just go out there and gun for it. And I think we learn along the way.
Right.
And I think that's similarly for us. But the worst is that, think otherwise where, you kind of say like, oh, maybe it won't work out, or like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. So I would say go for it. That's number one. And I think second of all is that for a lot of brands that I see out there, they somewhat plan, or they always have this intention of like, okay, I'm going to dump all my money or all my resources into like this collection, and hopefully it sells out and use that money to roll.
Right.
It's not the case. Like, I mean, obviously there have been success cases, but I would say the other 99%,
Right.
you need that constant, it's a hit and miss, right?
Yeah.
So that first collection may not be the one that really, gets you out there or creates that momentum for you, but
Right.
perhaps that second or third. So think about that already and have that kind of lined up. Like, okay, if you're going to start something, this is the plan for the year.
Right.
It's not just a one-off collection.
Right. Is it because in some cases people go into it thinking only of how lucrative it is and not so much having the passion, but more guided and they are pushed forward by their want or need for making money?
I mean, I'm sure there are people, who obviously look at it from a monetary standpoint, and that's fine, to each their own, right? But I think a lot of times, passion, where that really sort of thrives is that when you're in the rut, when you're really sort of like challenged, I think that is what's going to get you out of it lah, compared to just surrendering and put your hands up and go like, screw this. I think I had enough.
And there have been moments like that.
Of course, many moments, where we're like, so tired.
How do you personally deal with those moments? Because, like you said, there are many. Right? What keeps you going other than passion? How do you manage?
I think, and this is something which has been cultivated over time. I'm 40 now, and I think it comes with age. So it's reflection. It's gratitude. It is just the way that I kind of live my life these days. So a lot of reflection, because like time these days is like super quick, like bang, bang, bang. Like, what's the next thing? But when you kind of stop, look back and reflect on that journey and go like, hey, you know what? Yes, I am in this rut right now, but look at all these other amazing things which has happened, So spending a little bit more time being more reflective with yourself. So I've got like a daily sort of program, especially I'm a morning person as well. So I kind of do all of that, kind of gets me started for the day, and just go out there and
you know yourself.
Yeah, conquer things. Yeah. And I think it comes with time lah.
Right.
Yeah.
So have you, if you compare the person you are now with the person who started, how big is that difference? How jarring is the difference?
I think Hugh's, my core is the same. I would like to think of myself as, fun, a little bit carefree, a little bit risk taker. But there is definitely that other aspect now which has been cultivated, which is like I said, right? Like this team that I need to take care of.
Yeah.
So having to think about that.
Right.
I'm also married, so there's also that family aspect. Parents are getting older, so there is that responsibility as well.
And all this bleeds into the way you manage the company.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely in the way that I live my life. Can't be too crazy these days. Gotta take it easy, make sure everything's a good balance.
It's for the better though, right? It's for the better. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I can't imagine. Going back to my old lifestyle.
Right. Okay. Given the rapid evolution of fashion trends and consumer preferences, where do you see the streetwear industry heading in the next 5 years, and how is PMC positioning itself to adapt?
I think first up, like I mentioned, in terms of the way it's presented, I think that always has to change. That always has to evolve. I mean, the DNA of the brand's always gonna stay the same, because that's who we are. So I think for us, number one is obviously a lot of it boils to the team, because I'm not on the ground as I used to be. So I'm having to kind of be dependent on my team these days, which majority of them are within that 25 sort of age group, 25 to 30 age group. So they still have the energy. They're still out there, partying, seeing things, going for events.
Right.
And I think a lot of what you see, coming out from the brand is them. It's not Hugh anymore. I mean, Hugh obviously has a part to play.
Right.
But the idea is that Pestle Mortar is not just the founders itself, but really the team. So that is, and that's what they're kind of feeding out, and that's how we've been sort of addressing it lah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like learning to allow the ideas to come in also from the younger,
Yeah, new blood.
yeah,
Yeah.
there is a certain stereotype of people in their 20s that seems to be propagated sometimes
Uh-huh.
and is said over and over again about their attitude towards work.
Yeah.
Do you see it in your team?
I think, in terms of the way that I sort of like speak to the team members, obviously, I think that's changed compared to the way when I was interning in my previous firms, growing up as a kid. Very different.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is do as you're told. But I think
Along with a healthy shut up before that you would hear all the time, right?
That's true, man. That's true. So, but I think now, which I think is for the better, lah. I think,
we
can
would have
healthy
appreciated that
conversations.
actually.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's almost like we learn from the youth of today, because the way they want to be treated now is the way that actually we would have preferred to have been treated.
Sure.
In some ways.
Yeah. Definitely, to some extent, lah. I think always pros and cons, right? I think that has also taught us a little more grit and determination.
Yeah.
Which is also very important.
Yeah.
So
what's that balance then, right? Finding that balance now between that way and this way.
Yeah. So even with the way that I sort of like run my organization, it's that lah. It's not I tell you just to do it, but I explain to you why we need to kind of get it done, and you do it your way. As long as we get to where we want to go.
Right. And you are definitely getting there, because you mentioned having a 10-year plan, right?
We do have 10, all the way until 2030, yeah.
Okay, I'll see you in 10 years' time and we'll have another discussion then.
For sure, Terry. Yeah.
Now, we're going to go to the rapid fire questions now.
Okay.
Okay? So, whatever answer that comes to your mind first is the one we are going to take.
Okay.
One word to describe PMC's journey so far.
Evolving.
Oh. Most surreal moment in your career.
We have had many surreal moments, but I think one thing which has shaped the brand is partnership with KFC
Interesting.
in 2019. One first.
What stood up about it? What stood out?
Well, it's our first big major collab, and that is what sort of like opened up the floodgates for so many other corporate companies.
Wow.
To come and say hey, you want to do something?
Like a key moment.
Yeah. So people saw that because they had a lot of dollars and cents to throw behind the campaign. So it was like, we could go out there and really do what we wanted to do.
Speaking of collaborations, a collaboration you'd love to make happen.
I think the next, and we're not there yet, but definitely, brands that come to mind would be, Porsche. Things like, obviously like shoe brands like Nike. The idea here is that, if that's the target, how do we get there? It's not an overnight thing, like I said before. It's about lining it up. So, we're slowly
10-year
coming
plan.
together.
10-year plan.
Yeah, give it a while. I think it'll be quicker than 10 years.
All right. All right. You heard it here. Okay.
Yeah.
If you weren't in fashion, what would you be doing now?
I think it would be, I've always enjoyed like furniture, like industrial design and stuff. And that was one of my first choices when Dad kind of said like, hey, university, what are you thinking about studying? I was like, I'm going to study industrial design. And he was like, if, as an architect, you can do everything else, but as everything else, you can't be an architect. I mean, like, that kind of makes sense.
I feel like we had the same father.
Okay. I think this is the Asian father in general.
Right. What's the biggest fashion trend you wish would make a comeback?
To be honest, nothing. I think all of it had its time and place. I think something which has like come back, obviously when I was much younger, a lot of us were rocking like baggy jeans, and I've seen that come back, and it's quite nice. It's refreshing to see. I don't think I can pull it off. But
you could, man.
I could maybe,
Yeah.
but I don't quite. But I see a lot of the like young kids these days, and they look really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
these baggy.
so the thing that should make a comeback kind of has to make a comeback.
It
already.
has definitely. Yeah, there are a lot of things.
If you wait long enough, that thing will make a comeback. Whatever that thing is.
Say for example, like skinny jeans is obviously like a thing. Back in like college days, like Nudie and all these brands. But when I look at it now, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, man.
Compared to like, so I wear like super like lightweight stuff.
Yeah.
And I love sportswear these days.
I remember
It's
having to
super
get back from college and have to sit down to remove my pants.
Yeah.
Because they were so tight.
Exactly, and our weather as well. With our weather, right? It's not conducive, to be honest. So
Okay, that one we don't want to make a comeback, right? We don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
In a world filled with trends, do you believe the best designs come from simplicity or intricate storytelling?
I believe in substance. I like substance. Yeah, so I feel like there needs to be some sort of story
Meaning.
behind it. Yeah. I mean, once you have established that story, then you can put out simple things and it still gets eaten up. But I think the initial phase always needs that substance.
Right. Right. Will you be writing a book, do you think?
No, I wouldn't say no lah, not a book. But this year for 15-year anniversary, we are doing a coffee table book. So for that one, is more of more visual lah.
Okay.
So we just want to be able to, I think, like I said, right, like a lot of times we don't look back, and I always want to be able to really sort of capture that 15 years and go like, this is all that we've done over 15 years. We should be bloody proud.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Look forward to seeing what that book looks like.
Yes.
All right. Final question. We ask everyone this, which is if you had the opportunity to make one change as Prime Minister of Malaysia
Oh my God.
for a day, what would it be and why?
Oh, what would it be?
Prime Minister for a day. You make this change and then you say bye.
Okay.
Not that.
Okay, I think I got one. I think, and I look at, especially like right now in terms of the landscape, I look at Malaysia and I go like, there is actually so much talent, but just not enough platforms out there. And the way that we brand the country, it's I look at South Korea. Think about it. We don't even understand the language. We don't know anything about their culture, but we're eating it up. And the amount of like branding which is on it, right? Be it their films, their dramas, to their music, to their fashion right now.
Right.
So I think, Malaysia itself has so much sort of talent, but what are we doing about that, right?
You're right.
I think
Where's the support, right? There could be more support.
Yeah, a lot more support. And
From
I think
above.
a lot of it, I mean, if you just look at our even Olympics last year, look at, I mean, that was the whole hoo-ha about like the what they're wearing, right?
Yeah, that.
I mean, just that, right? That's like we're known for all these like bloopers and
Right. When we are so capable and we have the talent that should be highlighted.
exactly.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes the very talent that is highlighted, they are highlighted for the wrong reasons. Their performance is great, but we're looking at what they're wearing instead.
Exactly. So yeah, I think the untapped potential to be able to kind of showcase that. And I think that's always been like a dream of PMC, and we do it in small ways that we can. But like I said, like being a platform for others, that's always like the plan. And I think that is also our vision. We want to be able to put Malaysia on the map, like be this brand, this number one brand where people look at it and they go like, I wonder where this brand from. Oh, Malaysia, where's this?
Yeah.
And then they look at it and go like, oh, cool.
Right.
Okay, maybe I'll visit one day.
Yeah. Nice.
Contribute that way lah.
I would vote for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Darren.
Right. I appreciate you joining us today. It's been great, Hugh. Like we learned a lot, and maybe we'll have you back in the future.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah, 20. What's this? Now we're what? 2035, huh?
Yeah.
10 years.
We'll mark it down in the calendar right now.
Yes.
Nice.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.